What is going on, everyone? Israel back again with another video. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the Miami Marlins situation, because this team is really interesting to watch. Obviously, that 2023 season they just had was pretty solid for them. Able to actually make a playoff spot, which I don't think a lot of people really expected, to be honest. I think a lot of people thought the Cubs or Reds or even the Padres were going to make the playoffs over them. But they actually did a solid job of getting into the playoffs, and they tied with Arizona, I think, at 84 and 78. And unfortunately, they had to play the Phillies, which, was a pretty tough series for them. They kind of got blown out a lot in that one. And then coming into this offseason, I personally thought this team was going to make a pretty good amount of moves, and then we're going to see a lot from this squad. And then we kind of fell apart in Miami. I don't know what was going on there. We kind of had Kim left at first, which was pretty interesting. That whole situation is very weird. I know there were a lot of problems with, the team and her together, and she wanted to go somewhere else, which I don't really blame her. Yeah, so that kind of screwed up their offseason a little bit. They obviously needed someone to refill that position. I'm not sure if they even announced who filled that position, to be honest, their GM. Or I don't even know if it's filled, because they haven't made it, literally any moves. I mean, they haven't made any, major moves yet. And we know a lot of their players opted out of their contracts, or they got poached by other teams already. I think the big one was Jorge for me. I mean, he left instantly. Pretty much as soon as that season ended, the next 2 weeks, he was gone. So, and he still hasn't got signed yet. So I don't know if they're going to pick him back up or something. I don't know what's going on with him. And obviously, a lot of their other players got poached by other teams already, and they've got good contracts over there. So they really haven't gotten much better if you look at this offseason alone. That's the interesting thing for Miami. It's I don't really think they're going to get back in the playoffs, because they did barely get in. You have to remember that they were 84 and 78 and in 5th place. They had the tiebreaker over Arizona, but then the Cubs, if they won one more game, I think they would have had a tiebreaker over them, and it would have got crazy and all that stuff. So they were literally one game away from not being in this, so it would have been pretty crazy. So they did barely get in the playoffs, but still, this team is, I really thought they were going to improve and go all out, but they haven't really done that at all, and it's kind of sad to see. So if we take a look at their contracts right here in the financial situation, they've only spent $46.2 million on this team. If you add in all the arbitration, all the other costs, it's going to be around $90 million. That's not a lot of money. I mean, let's be honest, that's not a lot of money for these teams at this level. Obviously we know Oakland's going to have the lowest payroll, but man, for a playoff team, they really did a good job. Looking at this team, I mean, I feel like they got to sign someone big to even have a shot to really be in that position for next season, because we obviously know Alcantara's out for this season with the Tommy John, so that's not going to really improve him. He didn't have the best season in 23, but he was still a decent pitcher, I would say. Obviously they're stuck with the Josh Bell contract from Cleveland, because he opted into that contract, which I don't blame him, because I don't know if he's even going to get a contract in 25. I mean, depending on how he plays this year. If he was his Pittsburgh Pirate level this year, then he might be pretty solid. I think their major move is Tanner Scott is also a really good pitcher. He's in his last year of arbitration before he's a free agent as well. So I can definitely see them maybe during the trade deadline trying to get rid of him, especially if their Marlins are not really good, because he's actually a really good pitcher that I think a lot of other teams could use in their bullpen. Obviously their main one, Luis Alvarez, the GOAT hitter, right? I mean, he's still got 2 years with the team until he's technically a free agent because of the arbitration with the rookie contract. He's still got a lot of time as well. But it's not like this team's terrible. They still have some decent players, right? They still have Jazz Chisholm on this squad. Brian De La Cruz is still here in the outfield. Edwin Cabrera is still a good pitcher for him. Braxton Garrett is still here as well. Still got Jake Berger on this team. They have some decent players. It's just compared to where they were in 23 and looking at this squad in 24, I just don't think they have what it takes to get back in the playoffs, unless they actually sign someone, make moves. If we take a look at their prospects, though, this is where it gets interesting. They have a decent amount of players for the 24 ETA right now, so I think this could definitely help them when they're trying to make this playoff push. We do know that the Miami Marlins do get a lot of good pitching prospects on their team. And looking at these guys right here, we do have a couple pitchers in the 24 ETA. We also have some other positions. We have one outfielder and a catcher. So once again, we'll see if these guys actually get called up in this year. Even some of the 23 guys as well were pretty solid. So we're going to see how all these guys do in spring training. I mean, spring training's everything for these prospects. I mean, I keep saying this in all these videos. Spring training is going to be such a huge component for who's actually going to make the squad or who's going to move up to the next level in the minor leagues. So it's going to be really important, that spring training. So spring training should definitely be exciting, especially with that spring breakout they just added. I mean, that will be exciting as well for all teams. Yeah, the Marlins definitely got a couple guys in AA. This AA squad they got is probably pretty good, because they do have a decent amount of players on there, at least from their top 25 and top 30. Should be exciting to watch that AA squad, because they look really solid with all their prospects and all their rankings right now. But for the actual MLB team in Miami, it's going to be interesting to see how they go. I mean, I think we said this last year when I made the video on them about them. I think it was May time. They were starting to play pretty decent baseball. I was like, you never know from this team, which I still think is true. You really never know from the Miami Marlins on how good they're going to do. I mean, I was pretty surprised they were able to ride it out through, pretty much the first half. They get the second half, they start to go on a little bit of a downside, and they pick it back up really quick. So I was really impressed by that as well. Really, you never know with this team, but me personally, I don't think they make make a playoff spot this year. I mean, this team was pretty solid last year, so if you look at the NL wildcard standings, but this team, I feel like it's going to be like the Reds or Cubs. They're going to be a game out or like really close, but maybe miss the playoffs. I just don't really see it happening unless, once again, they sign great players or these prospects come up and they become great all-stars for this team. Then I can see them actually, going for it, especially if they have another good trade deadline, which I think is a huge component now of the game. But the trade deadline becoming more impactful, I definitely see a lot of these teams making a lot of moves. And I think the Marlins did make a decent amount of moves during that trade deadline. So there's gonna be a lot of bumps, I think, for this squad moving forward, but we're gonna see where they end at the end of the season. I think they can be pretty solid, but I don't really know if they're gonna make the playoffs again, guys. But what do you guys think about this Miami Marlins squad? Very interesting squad as they move forward to the 24 season. Where do you guys have this team? Like I said, I think they're gonna be right out of it. I think they're gonna barely miss the playoffs, to be honest, but we're gonna wait and see how good they actually are. And if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, go check out the other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.